Hey everybody, this is the North and South Show. Tim Kawakami here with the co-host of the Los Angeles Times, Dylan Hernandez. We, of course, are the Shohei Ohtani podcast all day, all night, but we will delay getting into that. He did something last night. I'm not sure. Probably no one ever heard of it, but we'll talk about that with Dylan in a little bit. Let's start with the breaking news, though. Dylan, I know this is not Ohtani related, so your interest might be fading a little bit, but the A's they'll be the Oakland A's for this season, this last season of the Coliseum, and then just announced that they will play their next 3 seasons and possibly 4 while the Las Vegas Stadium is theoretically being built in Sacramento. And they will just be called the A's. They won't be the Sacramento A's. They won't be the Las Vegas A's. They won't be the Oakland A's. They'll just be the A's. Not a surprise. This is the deal that cable television made possible because NBC Sports Bay Area pays them $70 million a year in Oakland, and they had to renegotiate this deal. They're going to move out of Oakland, out of the Bay Area, and they've come to some agreement. I don't know what the number is, but basically NBC Sports Bay Area is paying for it. I'm going to say flat out, they're paying for it. Dylan, your thoughts on this? You've seen some of this. You know the A's situation. What's your first reaction to the A's going to be in a AAA ballpark, I'll point out, that will need renovations to get anywhere close to Major League level in the heat in Sacramento? Your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess it just kind of starts with just kind of the general sadness, right, of them just not being in Oakland anymore. You know, just as obviously the history that's there. You know, I think those of us that I'm I was born in 1980, so I remember the A's being really good. I don't think now once you get to the Oakland Coliseum, you understand why that's not a tenable situation, but from like the nostalgia's sake, right? That's kind of unfortunate. And as somebody who lived up in the Bay Area, right, for 5 years, you just kind of, you understand just kind of what it means kind of to the culture up there. I had a friend who kind of lived up in the hills there, kind of on the nice side of Oakland, and right, there's kind of an A's, right, on one of the switchbacks there. There's kind of like a little A's mural kind of built into the mountainside there. And again, you kind of see, right, it's a very distinct atmosphere. I've covered playoff games there where, again, the atmosphere is kind of like unlike anywhere else in all of Major League Baseball. So just kind of my gut reaction is just that it's kind of unfortunate. I think, again, that Coliseum situation, after they blew up the football stadium in San Diego, is probably the worst facility in all of professional sports. But yeah, it's just unfortunate they couldn't get it done because, you've seen, I guess, how, right, certain cities, certain areas, right? I mean, you look at, the area around, what is it, Oracle Park now?
Yeah.
The former Pac Bell AT&T Park, just what it did like for that area, right? And, you kind of see, maybe something like that happening for Oakland, but it's kind of unfortunate it's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's a long story. I mean, I've called it the most boring story until it's really not boring. Of the A's, John Fisher's quixotic pursuit of stadiums across the East Bay, also in San Jose, that was blocked by the Giants. But who's to say he would even been able to do it in San Jose if he had MLB permission, which he did not. It is just a bunch of failure, a bunch of failure. No, this is Oakland politicians have not been. It's not easy to deal with Oakland. We've seen them lose now 3 teams. And it's sad for the city of Oakland, but it's also difficult to get stuff done. I understand they should have other priorities and do have other priorities. There was a deal that was on the table that I heard was pretty good at Howard Terminal, and John Fisher just didn't feel like he could do it. I don't know that he can get it done in Las Vegas. This guy has a history of, I've gone on about this before. So I don't know that the Sacramento thing is any huge development other than it is the physical relocation of a team. Like this is the physical, if temporary, relocation, but it's just so John Fisher that he's doing it most because we can say how bad the Coliseum is. It's still a major league place. It's still got major league clubhouses. It still has indoor batting cages, all those things that Sacramento does not have and will not have. And seats 10,000 in regular seats, and then it's going to be 4,000 in a grass outfield. Like this is a minor league operation. Sacramento's doing it because Vivek Ranadive, the owner of the team in the park, wants a little prelude for trying to make a bid for a real team. And I think there's a backdoor. Maybe that's where the A's end up, period, if they can get a stadium situation that's major league level. If the Las Vegas thing falls through, which, by the way, it's 2028, but there's a extra year tacked onto this deal that maybe they'll play in Sacramento for another year if the Las Vegas stadium isn't done. There's always these little add-ons with John Fisher. Like, it might not happen here, so maybe it happens over there. I don't feel like this is a death blow, final stage, whatever. That this is, we'll still see what's going on, but it's John Fisher could have played this in the Coliseum, and I'll say this, Dylan, it's not as bad as that. It's not kept up. It's a major league stadium. It's been a major league stadium for a lot of years. It's fallen into some amount of disrepair, mostly because the two sides hate each other. So who's going to pay for it? But it could be nicer. It could be fine for several more years. And one of the reasons they're not going into Las Vegas is for temporary seasons, because it's a AAA ballpark. They're not going to Salt Lake City because the money's not there for that. They're going to Sacramento because NBC Sports Bay Area is paying for it, and because that city it's just close enough that John Fisher and executives can feel like it's close enough, and they still get the cable TV money, but they're not going to have, theoretically not going to have A's fans outside protesting sell, because I know they hated that. But as typical with John Fisher, I'm sure none of this is locked down. They don't know exactly what the logistics are going to be. Who's paying for the renovations? What happens if stuff doesn't work? What happens if they can't get the cable fiber optics in there for a national TV? What the Yankees come to town and Yes Network says this isn't right? What are they going to do? All these things are up in the air. It's John Fisher. I haven't been wrong when I've said when there's stuff up in the air involved with John Fisher, count on failure more than count on success. So this is just one exit ramp on the way, but it's not going to be anything that it doesn't have the same problems, the same issues, the same cheap skate stuff, and the same not thought out process. It's sad, but it's not, it certainly was something that was coming. Even if they played in Oakland for the next 3 years, there's going to be problems. There's going to be issues. There's going to be John Fisher not paying enough for what it takes to field the team. Like someone said, "Oh, can you imagine having a playoff game in a AAA park?" So they're not going to make it to playoffs. like there's just certain things you take off the table with this A's, and it's sad, right? Like literally, they are not making the playoffs. You can say that they will not make the playoffs the next 3 seasons that they're playing in Sacramento because this ownership won't allow it. Well, that's not great, right? That's not a great thing just to say about a major league team. So. I don't know. That's just my rant on this. It's a typical John Fisher move and a John Fisher age done in a rinky-dink way, going to a AAA city. Sorry, Sacramento, but you're AAA city.
Do you think? I mean, how much of this was just kind of like, I don't know, spite is the right word? But you kind of mentioned them not liking the protests and stuff.
Yeah, there is some sense that this is far enough away, so you won't get that. Although I don't know, you might still get it, at least for a little while. I think John Fisher hates that. I think John Fisher does not like the Oakland politicians. I have not been on these meetings. I think MLB, I know Manfred has been very, very hostile to publicly even to the Oakland politicians and Oakland proposals. There might be some reason for that. I don't think, not any more than they have with other municipalities that have other priorities, that have fiscal burdens. But yeah, I think that is a huge part of this. How do they get out of Oakland and maintain their money? That's where this happened. They could not get the cable money unless they were close enough to the Bay Area that NBC Sports Bay Area would want to broadcast them, and they did not want to be in Oakland. So those two things made Sacramento, and they had the owner there, Vivek Ranadive, very, very eager to have them. I'm sure he's probably paying for most of the renovations. I'm sure it might be rent free. Who knows? But it is kind of the compromise, I guess, in A's world, where they're not that far from where they've been, and they can get the money. And I've been hammering this on Twitter. It's like NBC Sports Bay Area made this deal happen. This is their deal. I've said they should be the NBCSB A's because that's who's representing. This is paying for this move. They're going to pay him some percentage of the $70 million to pay. And it's like, the ratings they're getting, Dylan? It's like, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's insane.
Why they're doing this? It's the carriage rates. They can charge they can charge down the line as long as they have the A's. There's a dollar number. It's old media. You and I have seen this in newspapers. You just have the old subscribers that you just keep billing and you keep billing and keep billing. And so what if it's going away? You got to get that money from the old subscribers and take advantage of it now and not build for the future. You're just trying to get, people. This is why there's cord cutting. Because why the hell does the most people want to pay for $3, whatever they're paying for the A's on their cable bill? That's why cable's going away, is because I don't want to pay for all these other channels, right? That's not the way the world is anymore, except for in very, interesting demographics, and that the cable companies need to, because like the newspapers, it's being delivered to their house. So it's going to be delivered to their house for the next 20 years because that's how they are. Everyone else who has a decision isn't going to get the newspaper, period. But cable companies are just going to get that carriage rate because it's based on the formula, and they need the A's on NBC Sports Bay Area. I think it's pathetic, basically, because it's going away. I think kowtowing to John Fisher is sad, but I know, and I've been hinting about this for a week or so. Like this, I knew NBC Sports Bay Area was going to kiss John Fisher's ring, frankly. And they've done it. They've enabled this move to happen when they could have said, we're not going to negotiate you. We're not going to pay you anything if you play in Sacramento. You're going to have to play in Oakland. And they never did that because they want to be in the John Fisher business. And I don't get that.
So how does this end now? I mean, this is all right. I mean, you make this move assuming this Vegas thing's going to get done.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's all on a bet. Yeah, it's on a bet. It's like, we think it's going to, we've seen teams do that. It's like on the optimistic chance that they get this thing done in Las Vegas. Well, what if it doesn't happen? And with John Fisher, it hasn't happened in many other spots. I've detailed them over and over again. San Jose, Fremont, Laney College, Oakland Coliseum, Howard Terminal. Like, you can just keep going through these places where he's announced he's going, and it has not happened. I don't know. Like, when you come to 2 years and the Vegas thing is blown up, you go back to Oakland, do you go back to Howard Terminal? I think what many people, wise people in sports, and maybe even a few in MLB, think that that's when Fisher throws up his hands and sells the team. Now, that's the Ronnie Dive bet. Okay, Fisher's given up on us because that was his last chance. This is it. I'll just buy the team from him, and we'll build a stadium in Sacramento. That's the Ronnie Dive bet. Does not mean it's going to happen. Does not mean that MLB will approve it. I think there are people in the Bay Area that would be very interested in just picking up that Howard Terminal deal if it's still there. There could be a renovated Coliseum. Like, there could be a whole bunch of things, that are out there. If this blows up, I think you have to be aware of them. But the John Fisher bet is that he's done with Oakland, and he will be moving the team into Las Vegas in 2028 or 2029 or 2030 or 2031, whatever. And that's no sure thing. That is no sure thing. But he can't bet on anything else because he has to remain John Fisher, like just trumpeting these things that never happen, and thinking that everyone will forget about his past failures. Well, I think the wise people don't forget about his past failures because they're the model for what might happen in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? And you talk about past failures. I mean, the biggest one still might be ahead.
Yes. That would be quite a flaming thing if that thing goes down. And there's so many ways it still could go down, Dylan. There's so many ways. There's lawsuits. There's what Bally's is going to do. It's the Tropicana. It's the small site. It's the, they haven't announced a financing plan. They haven't, there's just so many things that could go up in flames. So let's see. Be skeptical is the right way. He's proven it. There's some people who've proven you don't need to be skeptical about them in big projects. For him, he's proven time and time again that you got to be skeptical. You can't just take everything he says. You cannot take everything he says as the truth, because it's not. All right, let's talk Giants Dodgers, Dylan. I'm sure you were fully engaged in that. Any surprises out of that? I mean, I thought the Giants played okay, get swept, but I thought they played okay. I don't think anybody logical comes out of that going, oh my God, they're terrible. The Dodgers are a great team. And I guess that's going to play like that. Good Lord. Right. I mean, and he might play like that all season.
Right. Yeah. I guess I was kind of surprised that, just kind of looking at the Dodgers, especially from like a defensive standpoint, from like a bullpen standpoint, I thought they still had some holes, and I thought that maybe a team like the Giants being right, like you said, they played well, they played well enough. I just thought they would at least be able to kind of take one of those games. But what you're just seeing with that Dodger team is that even though Ohtani didn't hit until the last game, they just kept piling up runs, right? And they can score a lot of them in a hurry. They're never out of it, and they did it really, with Ohtani not really being there until, last night. There's a little bit of a flu bug, I guess, kind of going around the clubhouse, right? So Ohtani, I guess, has been sick kind of all, this was sick throughout the series. So is Freddie Freeman, my understanding, Max Muncy. But despite that, right, I mean, when you have that many offensive weapons, right now, you mentioned Betts, it's Will Smith, I think, is hitting for something right now too. Teoscar Hernandez has been hitting the ball pretty well. So yeah, kind of every night, if three guys kind of get things going, a couple other guys, right, move over a couple guys, squeeze in a couple hits here and there, you're going to put up the run. So yeah, at least kind of the early, again, it's only 9 games, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to say, hey, this is the greatest offensive team we've seen in a while, but it is the first time in Dodger history that a Dodger team has scored 5 or more runs in each of their first 9 games. And, again, until last night, Ohtani really hadn't gotten going.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to, like, I start thinking ahead, like, okay, is this the inning where those 3 come up, or is it next inning? Okay, you might have to change a pitcher before you get to those guys again. This is like really one of those things where, and it's not just them. I know it's not just them, but good Lord, those 3 guys put together, like, you think they're going to score a run like every single time, at least one, maybe multiple, or at least wear out your pitcher, right? I mean, it's just
exactly.
so,
I think that's kind of the biggest thing.
They wear out the pitcher, and then they got to bring in the reliever, and they're going to blow up the reliever. So this is a great team, no question. And listen, if Glass now holds up, if all, then they got all these other guys who could be coming back, Kershaw, Buehler, whatever. This is a great team. Now, we'll see how they are in a short series, as you and I have been talking for months. Let's see how the pitching holds up. Can they get into a short series and feel good about it? Does the bullpen hold up? Does defense hold up? But this Betts looks like he did in his Red Sox MVP season, where every time I watch him, he hits the ball hard. Like, he does not do anything but hit the ball hard. Can play shortstop, can play second base. The guy's ridiculous. When you got Mookie Betts going, you're like, that's like 2 runs right there, because he's just going to do stuff that get things going. And then forget about Freeman and Will Smith and Ohtani and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I was impressed, but they're an impressive team. Anything new you think that they're showing? Any kind of development? Oh, let's go Ohtani. Let's just say Ohtani. I know you went up to him after one of the games. You talked a little bit. Is this going to be like he's talking regularly, or what's the mood from him?
Yeah, I think that there is kind of an understanding now that, at least like in certain occasions. So yesterday, I think the team made it a point to, right? So I think this is kind of a funny thing. So they have this backdrop, which I believe just kind of the way they're freaked out about whenever we talk to him when he's not in front of the backdrop, they've completely freaked out, which leads me to believe that they probably have a contractual obligation to put, this sponsored thing. And so, I think the team kind of understands that, like, hey, because kind of from them, the worst case scenario is like, okay, he's not talking. We walk up to him and he talks anyway. Right. So, and I think he kind of understands this. And so, he has been, and again, I think he's also kind of conscientious of the fact that, hey, look, his name is linked to a scandal right now. Right. So, yesterday they brought him in front of the screen. It was outside of the clubhouse. So at least it kind of stayed out of everybody's way for the time being. But yeah, I do think it was one of those things, probably getting the first one out of the way was important for him, right? Just because, he himself kind of talked about how he just kept going up there thinking, I want to hit my first one. I want to hit my first one. And, it was right. That type of thinking, whenever you think about hitting one, is usually when you don't. So, I think kind of getting the first one out of the way was probably big. And, that said, I think we saw too, what was it, the 3rd inning? He's on first base. Will Smith doubles into the left field corner, pretty hard hit ball, fielded, perfectly well by the left fielder there, who did a good job throwing it in. Ohtani scores, fairly easily from first base. And that's kind of the other thing too, right? Is you just kind of forget, just like even him going bad wasn't really that bad, right? I think he, a couple of nights ago, he had the hardest hit ball since they started tracking these things. So he was never quite that far off, and he could still kind of do little things here and there to get guys in if he had to, So
I was surprised he was scoring on that. I really was. Like, I just didn't think about it, and I don't think he was running with the pitch. So it was just him, just being fast. I thought that was like, Conforto gets to the ball down the line pretty easily, turns, throw, and like he's crossing home plate.
Yeah.
Just an athletic marvel. He's a big dude who can move. And I was pressed by, and obviously the home run, lefty on lefty. I don't think that matters much. If you throw a bad pitch to him, he's still going to jack it. You went up to him. What game was it that you went up to him yourself? You know, I'm sure there was a group of them, but was that his locker? How did that all occur?
That was at his, yeah. So that was, God, I'm like, I don't even know what day of the week it is right now.
Previous series, the previous series. Yeah, it was a previous series.
Yeah. So he spoke, right? Oh yeah, it was at the Freeway Series, right? The last exhibition series before the start of the season. So he spoke, I believe that Monday. Spoke on a Monday, I think. He had his quote unquote news conference, I think. So then it might have been, oh no, it might have even been a couple of days. God, I'm sorry. I can't even remember what day it was. Anyway, it was a couple of days after he had his quote unquote news conference where he mostly just he wasn't reading off a script. He had kind of bullet points. He said I guess the way it was told to me was that he kind of wanted to like talk rather than read. That it would come across more authentic that way. But obviously he had a couple questions, the big ones that were left unanswered, right? In terms of how did Ipe Mizuhara gain access to his bank account? How were millions of dollars in payments somehow unnoticed? So I just kind of walked up to him and just like, hey, like, about the presser the other day, I think there are a couple big questions still out there.
In Japanese.
In Japanese. He nodded. He said, I understand. He was very like normal, I think. And Tim, you probably get this too, right? You kind of come around certain guys, even like the guys that like, I think are like willing to play ball. Sometimes they get a little bit nervous around you,
Not me. I'm not as intimidating as you.
Here, I'm just telling you, man, there was like nothing, and you can read that however you want.
Did you have like 70 people behind you watching?
Oh, no. It was just me and him.
Wow.
We were kind of walking out kind of towards like the food room. He even stopped, he kind of theoretically crossed that like line that I'm not supposed to cross into the dining room. But he actually hung around there. We had we chatted for a few minutes.
Good.
And again, he was totally normal about it, so it was just kind of interesting though to hear yesterday him say, acknowledge even that he was pressing, right? Because kind of the one thing kind of throughout this thing, even as he wasn't homering, and again, that this thing came up and, right. I guess it turned out like the last few days, because we, right. Kind of when the American media went away, the Japanese media then gets him, he started coughing a little bit more and sniffling and, right. So yeah, it turned out he was sick like the last few days, and it seemed like he even kind of downplayed all that, right? And and Roberts was kind of saying, he's either really good at kind of compartmentalizing things, or he either has like a really good poker face. Not sure that was probably the best term to use given everything that's going on right now. But, he and I asked Dave like, well, which one do you think it is? And he's like, well, it's probably somewhere in between, right? And that's probably the case here. I have seen him again. I've watched him play over the last 6 years. He does seem really good about kind of blocking out outside distractions. But, again, he acknowledged yesterday, like, yeah, he wanted to get that first one, right? And the pressure of kind of not having done it he was starting to feel it. But again, looking at it from the outside, we couldn't tell at all. That said, I think kind of common sense tells you, right? And you can just kind of see how happy his teammates were for him, that he was kind of able to get that one out of the way. And now you kind of start, again, imagining what this lineup is going to look like, if he starts going, I mean, you never, we've seen great lineups before, and right, you got 3-4 great hitters in it. They're never all going at the same time. That almost never happens unless you're facing some guy that just can't pitch at all. But, at any point you get two of those guys going, really good things happen, and, so far it's been Betts and Will Smith, with a little bit of Freeman in there. But Ohtani, again, with his power, with the speed, he can just beat you just like in so many, he's a lot like, again, when Mookie Betts is going, he's a really, really special player, and I think Ohtani obviously kind of takes that even more to like a different dimension. So,
Dylan, is there anybody else who kind of walks up to him to chat with him, like Japanese media, anybody, or is it just you?
There's a guy who, Naoyuki Yanagihara, who works for Sports Nippon. and he has covered Ohtani since Ohtani broke in to the professional ranks in Japan. So, I saw him walk up to him. I think that was yesterday, right? I'm not really sure what that was about, but he walked up and they had like a little brief interaction. But yeah, for the
The
most
Dodgers
part,
aren't like preventing that.
no, and I think that was kind of like, yeah, they haven't, and again, even like in spring training, I think, there've been a couple times when, right, I think there were once or twice, like, guys got him at the locker. He talked, after a game. Which game was that? Might have been. Oh, it was after Yamamoto start on Saturday, right? Kind of a group descended on him there, and he got in front of the locker and he talked, and that's kind of when the backdrop thing kind of became the issue, right? The team was like, "Look, we'll try to take care of this as much as we can, just like, please don't do this without the backdrop." Obviously, that's not really our problem,
Nope.
But I do think it kind of puts pressure on the team to do something about it, right? I mean, if you deliver the guy, this won't be an issue, So, yeah, and I think again, I think he understands too, because there's been a lot written about, the clubhouse dynamics, and I am sure he can kind of see the, because even yesterday, even though he did this thing outside, right, as soon as he's done, the clubhouse gets flooded. Teoscar Hernandez, when Ohtani kind of came back to the dugout area, had like 2 handfuls of sunflower seeds and just kind of threw them up in his face, kind of as a celebratory gesture. And so obviously he got mobbed, and, so it does get tight in there, and I'm sure Ohtani's cognizant of the fact, right, that not everybody's comfortable, and, that him talking outside will probably alleviate that a little bit. So I expect he'll be more cooperative than he was in Anaheim. And, and a lot of it has to do too with the fact that, now he's hitting home run, right? I mean, that home run yesterday, was that accounted for the winning run, right? It accounted for.
No,
right,
Miguel Rojas' home run. He counted for the win.
Yeah, but the stuff matters now, right?
Yep.
It's no longer just kind of this one guy performing and kind of putting on this exhibition. Now you have, right now, this is actually going to link to October. Now these things have championship implications. And, I do think it was big from the Dodgers standpoint to get the sweep over the Giants at this stage, right? I mean, I think, again, you look at, I think when do they play next in like May or something, right? I think there's a series up in San Francisco.
Up here.
Yeah. But, you look at that a little bit differently now, just from, there's a certain feel after you sweep a team like that. So this thing mattered,
Well, what do you think about the Giants? Like, I think they're just a better team. They got better players than last year. They weren't terrible than last year. That's kind of why I was picking them to get in the playoffs, not to beat the Dodgers, but to win 86 or whatever it's going to take to get one of those wild card spots. You look, Chapman, Snell's come in, Jorge Soler with a big home run. Like, what do you think from your view? What do you think of the Giants? A little bit comparison to the Dodgers, but also the comparison to themselves from last year.
Yeah, I think, they look like a playoff team to me. I think, again, I wouldn't have been surprised if they had, won a game, right? I mean, I think probably this speaks to the fact that the Dodgers are better even than I thought, right? Maybe that some of these issues that they have won't be as pronounced as I imagined. But I wouldn't have been, again, surprised where it's one of those situations where, right, one team plays kind of beyond their capabilities and another, right, maybe doesn't quite play up to it and has a couple of holes, and now all of a sudden they're kind of in a race. I could have totally envisioned that scenario, and I guess I still can, right? I mean, 1 or 2 pitchers go down for the Dodgers, and all of a sudden that changes the entire dynamic. I mean, historically, you look at teams that kind of win divisions and stuff. I mean, they tend to be the healthier teams, So again, if they can kind of maintain their health, I think, it's a solid team. I mean, yeah, Soler just hit oh my God. I mean, Ohtani's was like 430. I think that one went like 450 something. Right?
Yeah, that was he's going to be one of those guys where he didn't look good in the first 2 series, whatever, but then boom, he's going to hit 3, and they're going to be some remarkable shots. And they didn't have that last year. And I was like, this is where I'm a mean person, but it's just like more interesting watch. I'm thinking, no Jock Peterson. I don't have to think about when Jock Peterson is going to come up. I don't have to think about him in the outfield. Like Conforto made a play with a runner on to end an inning. It wasn't a hard play, but he had a move on a ball that was hit really hard. Jock Peterson, if he's playing left field, does not make that play. And just to me, Peterson and JD Davis, a really good guy. Brandon Crawford, really good guy, but I just didn't like watching them play. You know, they were not up to speed. They couldn't hit fast. No, they couldn't really hit Glasnow, his fastballs either. But that's it's a really good fastball. I think Yastrzemski might be in that category these days. Again, a really good guy, but I don't know that he has a hit this year. Maybe one hit. I know he had a baby, so he hasn't played the whole season. I don't want to be too tough on him, but he wasn't great last year. But they got some other guys who can, like Teosco. I mean, no, they don't have him. They have Jorge Solar, who can hit tough pitching. Chapman can hit tough pitching. I think Estrada can hit tough pitching. I think Lamont Wade can generally hit tough pitching. Like they got some guys I think are in that mix, and they got rid of most of the guys who could not hit great pitching, and that's just where they wilted last season. And we'll see if it holds up. Bailey had a home run last night. You know, he had not showed a lot of power. I just think they're better. I know Logan Webb did not look great against the Dodgers, but he's a really good pitcher. Dodgers are going to do that to a lot of people, and I just think they look better. Again, maybe I'm saying that, and they're going to heading towards 62 wins, but yeah, you're right. They look like an 85 to 87 win team. Guess what? That's what the Diamondbacks were last year. That's what the Phillies were last year. These are two really good teams. So you're not beating the Dodgers. Can you get to 86, get that second wild card, and then see what happens in the short season? I think knowing that Snell's coming, knowing that Cobb's coming, they might suffer injuries too. They might have issues too. I think the bullpen is more of an issue this year than it's been in a few years. But I kind of like this team. And that sweep by the Dodgers did not, I think, change anything of what I felt about them. We shall see how it plays out. Anything else you got there, Dylan? Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, I guess well, I guess Chargers now, right? Yeah. Right. I was kind of surprised. I think at his introductory press conference, kind of the two guys Harbaugh mentioned were Keenan Allen and Khalil Mack. Right. Yep. Obviously, somebody was going to have to go. Right. So I was a little bit surprised that Keenan Allen.
I was surprised by that too. I was surprised by Keenan. It seemed like it doesn't mean they released him. Doesn't mean that he's not a Harbaugh kind of player, but he feels like a Harbaugh kind of player. Tough-minded, good for the quarterback. Somebody you can count on. What to do, whatever. Has done it, but expensive player. Mike Williams. I think we all could feel that one was not good. I thought Joey Bosa was somebody that he might be okay going. He's really expensive player, but like they had to do some refiguring there. But it's not a surprise that he went with defensive line, right? It's just this is what he does. Line of scrimmage. I don't, sitting great at the number 5 pick. You can just take Marvin Harrison there maybe at 5 or whoever, and there's a better player than Mike Williams for sure, and probably than Keenan Allen right away. And there you got Justin Herbert reset with a receiver on a rookie deal. And we'll see what else they do. He's going to want to run the ball, right? Jim Harbaugh's going to want to run the ball and play defense. I think it suits the way football is set up with everyone else trying to throw. And you've got Justin Herbert still, but running the ball adds a physicality that he's going to want to put on this team, that he's put on every team he's had. And not a surprise. I thought Keenan Allen was the kind of guy he'd want. I thought they'd try to figure out a way to keep Keenan Allen. Obviously they did. I think they had conversations, but it just didn't work out. And we'll see how talented they are. And then to see what the quarterback can do. I think some thought in the NFL is the quarterback makes the receiver, not the other way around. So let's get a receiver and see what Justin Herbert can do with some of these other receivers they put in there, and then run the ball. Just run the hell out of the ball. And play defense. And I always like that about Harbaugh. I like that about Shanahan. We shall see how it works. And that's not the easiest division in the whole world when you got the freaking Chiefs sitting there. But I think they're going to be pretty good.
Both of our market's old man basketball teams have shown some life lately.
You know what? Those old guys are pretty good. They're pretty good.
Pretty good, aren't they? Yeah.
They might play. It looks like they're going to play each other in the play-in, which is incredible. As the 9-10, not even the 7-8, but we can talk about Draymond. I'm sure you got an opinion there. I wrote what I did, and a lot of people didn't like it, but like this guy plays. He still plays. He does crazy stuff. You have to deal with it. That's all understood. But I did not think getting thrown out of a game was the ultimate, like, ESPN does 24/7 on, oh my God, and it's a legacy and Steph's leadership is in question and this is over. It's like, you thought getting ejected was that? Like, no, choking Rudy Gobert was, and hitting Yusuf Nurkic. Those were issues to talk about. This Luka gets thrown out of games all over the place. Guys get thrown out. It's not great. You don't want them to do it. But it just became this, oh, now we're ready. We've decided everything about this one thing. Draymond's friggin' played great since then. It's just the standard thing that he does. And if he goes through another bad episode, then they'll have to revisit it. But for now, this is a pretty decent team that, actually is going to win about as many games as they did last year. And they're going to be 10th because the West has just got all, so top loaded and so terrible at the bottom. It is just, a team with expiration date like the Lakers, but I don't think let's say the Thunder are like overjoyed at the prospect of a first round series against either LeBron James or Steph Curry. I wouldn't want to be. And then Anthony Davis, has been playing some really good basketball. We'll see. But it's good for the league, right? To see these old guys kind of bring it back out. LeBron, I don't know. He talked a little bit about his future. To me, it doesn't sound like a guy who's going to leave LA. He has the opt out. What's your sense on LeBron? Like, I just think he's going to play 2 more years with the Lakers. I just think it's the right thing for him to do. Maybe they draft Bronny, or I guess Bronny's transferring from SC now, so maybe he's going to play another year somewhere else. But why wouldn't LeBron want 2 more years with the Lakers? It's set up well for him. He kind of runs the show. I don't know. What do you think there?
Yeah, I don't see him, because I just think that if he were to, he would have forced his way out already at this point, right? And again, just kind of, right, with kind of the most recent round of like chatter, whatever, right? And, again, the Warriors story, him, that whole story leaking, I think it kind of, again, was like, okay, well, do you really mean this or not type deal, right? And they kind of, put the proverbial gun to his head and, he's still here. So I agree with you. Like, he's going to look, he's still LeBron James, and he's going to exercise, try to take advantage of every bit of leverage that he has, to try to get better players on his team. And obviously he doesn't care about what happens here after the team retires. Clayton Kershaw's always talked about that too, where as he's gotten older, obviously, like, yeah, sure, I want the team to go out and spend $1 billion, right?
Yep.
But I understand, Kershaw's a little bit more understanding that, hey, there's life after me here. But so, I'm guessing we'll periodically kind of have these little like flare ups here and there. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, he just seems comfortable here, right. He still has a younger son who's in high school right now here. So I 100% agree with you. I just kind of don't see him uprooting, whatever. Because that's the other thing too, is like, where else, could he go really?
Cleveland. Right? I mean, that's it. I think, and he doesn't need to go back to Cleveland. They don't have the money to pay him.
Exactly.
So,
yeah. And here, no matter what it is, right, you're still a Laker, right? Which in and of itself is still, kind of the biggest, right, of all the LA sports teams. Right within the city, sure, the Lakers, the Dodgers might be having a moment right now, but globally as a brand, there's nothing that even compares to the Lakers at this point. So. Yeah, I am 100% with you there. He's going to finish it out here, and we'll see if. And I think you're right. No, none of these younger teams, I think, want any part of either Golden State or the Lakers. And the Lakers right now, right, kind of during this last stretch of games, Rui Hachimura has kind of started hitting those like open shots again. It's looking a lot like kind of that Memphis series last year in the playoffs. Where so much kind of all the attention was on LeBron and on Anthony Davis. And all of a sudden now you have this guy that can kind of take advantage of it. He is kind of up and down, so you never know what you're going to get from Hachimura. But, if he plays like this, again, I like their chances against, most teams.
I think the Nuggets stand out head and shoulders over everybody. I don't, they probably don't worry about it. There's some tougher series for them. But in the first round, I don't think they're too worried. But yeah, if you're Oklahoma City, do you want to go against Anthony Davis for, try to get 4 games out? You're probably going to win it, but it's going to be tough. And say you're the Timberwolves, do you want to go Steph Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson can get hot. There's Chris Paul. I wrote about him yesterday. There's just 22 minutes of Chris Paul can be really interesting and effective minutes. I wouldn't think the Warriors are going to get through many rounds, but they give themselves a shot. I give them credit for that. And again, they're going to end up with 45 wins or whatever they're going to end up with. That's a pretty decent season for being crappy a lot of the time. And they've won the championship with 48, I think. So it's good. It might get to a real crescendo real fast and then be over with because they both could be out very soon. But at least they're giving themselves a shot. They're not falling out of it. Like the Warriors play the Rockets tonight. It's a big game. They win it. They're basically in the play-in. They were in jeopardy of that with Houston winning a ton of games. But Houston's schedule got tougher. They lost a couple, and the Warriors fought through that really tough road trip. One in Miami, in Orlando, back-to-back, which is their best back-to-back of the season. And one of them that Draymond got thrown out of very early. But this is a decent team. And it's good for the league that these two teams are still decent. And they're probably going to play head-to-head for elimination. And I will be there. And we'll see if Dylan might be with Ohtani somewhere, but I will be at that game. All right, everybody. I think that's a show. Dylan is zoned out at this point. I'm not sure he knows what day it is still, but when's Ohtani coming up? All right.
Yeah.
Everybody, that's a show for today. Say goodbye, Dylan.
All right. Bye. Thank you.